79% of intimate partner homicides started with tracking.
Crazy.
If 79%, so if those people would have known that they were being tracked, they could have saved themselves. In CBS News, they interviewed the cousin of a murder victim. Had he had this mobile defender technology, he would still be alive today. We know that this is, if we save one life, just one life, this whole thing is worth it. This whole thing is worth it. Even if there's a possibility of saving one life, this whole thing is worth it. Hope to save many lives.
Okay, Moshe Satt, it's a pleasure to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for joining us. So I'm just going to introduce you a little bit. So Moshe Satt is a cybersecurity leader with over 24 years in the public sector, currently serving as CISO. I don't know what that means. You want to tell me what that means?
Sure. Chief Information Security Officer.
Okay. At New York City's Department of Sanitation, who protects the world's largest municipal sanitation agency from cyber threats. Also an entrepreneur, having founded Mobile Defender Incorporated, which we are going to talk about a bit today, to develop portable cybersecurity solutions that protect vehicles from GPS tracking and spoofing attacks. And academically, you're in the middle of pursuing a PhD in computer science at NYU Center for Cybersecurity while researching privacy and security. You also teach graduate and undergraduate cybersecurity courses as an adjunct at NYU Tandon School of Engineering, and you hold multiple professional certifications, including CCISO, SISSP, and CISM, as well as others, which, as Baruch Hashem, sounds great. I'm gonna put that in the show notes so people read it for themselves.
A lot of TLAs, three-letter acronyms. A lot of TLAs, three-letter acronyms.
Okay. Well, it definitely sounds impressive. That I can for sure say.
Thank you very much. Thank you so
You're
much.
Welcome. So I really would love to talk about, especially in this really fast-moving world in regards to technology. I feel like, you know, the difference between the 1600s and the 1700s was fairly minor, but the difference between 1950 and today is just it's just otherworldly. So in terms of your educational background, why don't you talk just a little bit more about that, and maybe share, as the years have gone on and you've even progressed in your education, how different are things really on the ground, you know, as seeing someone who's up and coming in the educational sphere in regards to technology?
Sure, yeah. Like you said, Rabbi, and thank you so much for having me on. It's really an honor. The technology, especially today, as we all know, with things like AI, artificial intelligence, it's moving extremely fast. And cybersecurity, I mean, fundamentally, cybersecurity is about people. It's not really about technology. When we talk about information security, there's two different terms that are used interchangeably, but cybersecurity, the word is more focused on technology, but information security is a little bit more broader, and it's information in any form, because at the end of the day, your persona and your identity today is really kind of created and established online, right? We do everything online today. We're doing this online. We learn online. You know, we work online. We go to school online, etc. So those threats aren't just a technology problem anymore. They're a people problem. At the end of the day, if someone is going to steal my identity or my information, or my company's information, this is a real world impact, right? This affects people's lives, people's livelihoods, but many times people's medical information. When I was at the fire department, FDNY, during COVID, so it was really that was kind of like a pikuach nefesh has kind of been a theme throughout my career, but that was like literally on the ground pikuach nefesh, because the idea was you had limited a number of hospital beds during COVID, and they needed to save those hospital beds for obviously for COVID patients. So using technology, when someone in New York City, Elena called 911 and the ambulance showed up, we'd be able to use technology. And of course, the underpinning was cybersecurity and information security. People's medical information is some of the most sensitive information around, but we'd be able to treat them, the doctors would be able to treat them remotely through telehealth, through the ambulance, on site, and many times save a hospital bed for COVID in the case of a situation where it was not a COVID call or the patient didn't need it to be admitted. Whereas in the old days, you're talking about how technology changes so quickly. The government in the United States it never allowed this kind of treatment before, but during COVID, they passed emergency regulations. They relaxed HIPAA, which is in the United States the law that protects people's medical information. So they relaxed those rules, but at the end of the day, you can't. There's a balance. Right? You can't completely throw away the baby with the bathwater, as they say. You have to still. You want to treat people remotely. You want to save a hospital bed for COVID patients, but that doesn't mean that you do something in an insecure way. That doesn't mean that you do something in a way where someone's most sensitive information possible, their medical history, their medical information could be leaked or could be stolen. So you have to protect patient privacy. It's not just a law, but it's a right. It's the right thing to do.
Well, let's
That's
talk
just
about
one
that for
example.
a second.
Yeah.
For example, the Wall Street Journal did a fantastic story a couple months ago about someone who had his identity stolen, and it really severely affected his life. And we could all imagine in certain spheres where it would make a bigger difference. For him, he lost his job, amongst many other things, but a person could lose also their right to get into their bank account. Someone else can use their identity, et cetera, et cetera. So you don't need to dream so much there. But let's say in the medical field. So why is having medical information secure so incredibly important? Is there really people that are vying for your medical background so that what? They're going to post it on LinkedIn? So why is that so critical? I do know that there's a part to that. There was a hack, I think, over the last year where someone hacked a major system and deleted a whole bunch of information. So if you're a doctor and you're trying to take care of your patient and you've lost all the information in regards to that patient, obviously that's really life-threatening. But is it really so aggressive? Are hackers really out there trying to steal your medical information?
Yeah, it's interesting because it actually touches on potential halachic dimensions. We're familiar with the concept of hezek riyah, right? So in cybersecurity, for example, in my day job as a CISO, I have access, and people, IT professionals and security professionals have access to information that's sensitive, and we need to be able to see this information in order to protect people and protect networks. But on the other hand, we know the concept of hezek riyah, that just the observation itself can be an invasion. So it opens up halachic ramifications, not just with people's privacy, but also with you find a vulnerability in a piece of software. And every piece of software out there, your phone, right now, it's vulnerable. My phone, everyone's laptop and computer and phone are vulnerable. Maybe Apple and Google and Microsoft, etc., haven't let us know yet. But the question is, and this maps to some halachic discussion about when are you obligated to speak up and when do you keep quiet? If I speak up and I mention there's a vulnerability, well, on one hand, now you could do something about it. You could protect yourself. But on the other hand, it's going to now trigger a whole floodgates of hackers exploiting the vulnerability. So to answer your question about medical information, the possibilities are endless. Obviously, in a simple case, someone has an embarrassing condition. Well, that's the true definition of privacy, is when there's something that privacy is like a subset of security. I teach at NYU a class called Information Security and Privacy. So on the first lecture, I always say you have a house, and the house has, the roof is cybersecurity or information security. The walls are privacy. So it's necessary. Privacy is necessary, but not sufficient. But it's a very important part of protecting someone's digital persona, someone's cyber life. So the embarrassment or the disclosure, it could affect employment conditions, right? Someone has something that they don't want their employer knowing because, truth be told, it shouldn't impact their work. It's illegal for them to take an action. Unfortunately, we know many companies will do it anyways. How about every time now you go online and you start getting ads popping up for this condition? How about they exploit the fact that they know that you have something someone has something, and they start targeting you, and they know they know the person might be vulnerable to based on their condition. So there's so many unfortunately creative and just plug that into AI now, and it's a force multiplier. So AI, today takes all these cyber threats that have been around forever, but it turns it into a force multiplier, because it now just exacerbates. It makes it much more real. You get a phone call and it's a deep fake. It sounds exactly like your father, your mother, your sister, your brother, your wife, your spouse, your husband, and and it's saying, I'm in trouble, I need a ransom, right? They have a very scary, very exactly. Perfect, a perfect voice clone. Listen, maybe most people, we hope, won't fall for it, but the hackers are counting on the few that will, because even if when they send a phishing email, that's an email that looks legitimate. It looks like it's your bank, and you click on it and you give your credentials. The next thing you know, God forbid, your bank account balance starts dropping. In that situation, they know they'll only get 1 out of 1,000. But when they're sending it to 100,000 people, right, and on each attack they're getting thousands of dollars, it's a true business. It's a true business. The dark web, this evil, scary dark web that we talk about, it's real. So when it comes to protecting people today, whether we all have Atzala, we have ways of protecting ourselves physically. We have to be just as vigilant today. When all your information is there. If someone was to change information about a patient who's in a hospital and they get the wrong medication, it's like so. Very, very serious things. So I was the HIPAA security officer during COVID. So by law in the United States, if an entity is a HIPAA covered, which means they're required to abide by HIPAA rules, basically anyone who bills medical health insurance companies, so including the ambulance companies like the fire department of New York, they're required by law to have a HIPAA privacy officer, who's usually an attorney, and a HIPAA security officer, which is a cybersecurity person. And that was a role that I had in addition to being CISO. And a lot of these issues, as I mentioned, came up. They could continue to come up.
Were there a significant amount of attacks during your time doing that?
There's always attacks. So thank God nothing that was successful. That we know about, but it's constantly saying, and we is Indian, al damriach, right? And one shot is Gemara in Sanhedrin, right? You have to save someone who's drowning, right? But it's more than just like actively doing an act of saving. You also have to. You could learn until Osama is that you don't just stand there. Build systems, build things that in the future. Now, this week's parsha Vayechi, right? Why is it called Vayechi, right? Yaakov Avinu is it talks about the Petir of Yaakov Avinu. Why is it called Vayechi, right? So the Medrash picks up, but the Medrash says Yaakov Avinu Lomes, right? And then what happens? So he tells Ephraim Menashe, right? He says, right, that I won't be here to protect you, but I want to make sure there's a system in place, even if it's not me personally. Malach Hagayel will be there to say. It's the same thing here, right? We have to have systems that we build that are there and ready. When we have, it ties into my company, Mobile Defender. We're going to talk about it, but it's building technology that even if I can't physically be there to protect the woman from being stalked and God forbid attacked by her ex, I can build something halachically. I have a chiyuv that we learn this week's parsha. The Medrash learns Yaakov Avinu lo meis, right? It's about how we continue our chain of protection and of security.
Do you experience that now on the corporate level? I don't know if you're allowed to talk about it, but are you even when you're working in sanitation? Are there attacks, and do you have to respond at all hours of the night, or how does that work?
Yeah, right now I'm in New York. Right now it's snowing, and so we're the first of the first responders. So what happens if when we get significant snow? So we've had already a few significant snowstorms this year, and what happens? So if the police and the fire and the ambulance, right? If basically someone calls emergency services. In the U.S. 911, they can't get down the street because the street is passable because of the snow. So someone who needs an ambulance or needs a fire truck or a police, it could be very, very, very serious. So we are out there right now. We're out there. We meaning my agency, DSNY, and we're very computerized. We're very high tech. So speaking of GPS, we have hundreds and hundreds of vehicles. We pre-stage them throughout the city because we don't want everyone coming from one location. It's all 5 boroughs of New York, almost 9 million people. So we have very sophisticated algorithms that figure out where we're going to put our assets, right? We have hundreds of vehicles, not just the plows, but the salt spreaders and the briners, and not only do we pre-stage, but we track in real time through GPS, and we're able to reposition assets. We're able to see with cameras. We're able to see exactly what's going on, and basically to keep New How does cyber come into play? When we talk about cybersecurity, is the CIA triad. It's not just the spy agency, but it's also, I teach my students, confidentiality, integrity, availability. The CIA triad, those are the fundamentals of cybersecurity. Well, in here, when speaking of the day job, in terms of sanitation, and I've been working for the city for a very long time. Again, we mentioned the fire department. I also worked at the police department. I was also in charge of 911 cybersecurity, the founding leader for that. It's about availability primarily. Yes, there's a confidentiality. We want to make sure your information isn't stolen. Yes, there's an integrity. We want to make sure your information isn't modified in an unauthorized way. But most importantly, when it comes to providing critical, life-saving public safety services for 911, when I was in charge of 911 cybersecurity, we opened a second 911 call center and dispatch center in the Bronx. It was a $1 billion facility. After 9/11, they realized that they can't have everything in Manhattan or downtown Brooklyn, which is almost Ki'ilu, Manhattan, very close. So they said, where can we put something that's still in New York City, proper, but is as far away from Lower Manhattan as possible? So they put it in the Bronx, and they built that thing had to be able to survive like a nuclear blast. Again, this was $1 billion. What was the idea there? The idea is that now we're going to start taking 911 calls. You can't even drop a single call. If one call is hacked or gets somehow lost or dropped, that person could die. As simple as that. And again, it's not just the calls coming in to 911; it's also dispatching out. So it's calls come in, both sides of that.
But are there anarchists? I'm saying, I understand why someone wants to steal your information to steal your money or whatever. But are there anarchists? Are there people that are trying to stop 911 calls?
Yeah. So many times terrorists will try to do both a physical and a cyber at the same time. So what better attack? Don't try this at home. But what better attack at the same time as Loleno? Unfortunately, we've had New York City is unfortunately the epicenter, and I would argue within New York, the biggest target in the world is New York City, and I would argue within New York, the biggest target is the 911 center, because in addition to causing some kind of physical attack, they also take down the systems. They also take down the communications. So now those people that would be responding to save people can't respond as efficiently, as quickly, as effectively. Well, sure, 100%. In New York, another thing we never had text to 911 until a few years ago. I was involved with the project. Someone can't. They're in a position where they can't call 911. They can't speak, or maybe they're disabled. New York City realized that they need ability, and I know in Eretz Yisrael, I think it's 100, right, the emergency line. But in any case, that's a very important thing. From a cyber perspective, someone who wants to hack 911, and again, don't try this at home, but can send a malicious text message into the 911 call center, and the minute the operator opens the message, boom, game over, right?
Does that happen? Are there attacks?
And there have been attacks, and all the time, and in New York, we have very, very strong security, but in some parts of the country here in the U.S. they've also caused 911 to be overloaded, because your phone, you accidentally download some kind of virus on your phone, and your phone starts texting. You could send a lot more text than you can call, right? So your phone repeatedly starts spamming the 911 call center. So now multiply that by thousands of phones as this virus, this worm starts spreading. Difference between a virus and a worm is the worm spreads by itself without any human interaction. So now this thing goes viral, literally, and next thing you know, they're getting spammed, and the systems can't handle it. So the systems get overloaded.
Doesn't that sicken you? To me, I understand why someone steals someone else's money. It's wrong. It's completely wrong. But it doesn't make you sick to your stomach. But messing with a 911 center, I mean, that's sick.
Yeah. And we tried to go into the psychology. This ties a lot into psychology, because we try to understand, in general, why do people do bad things? Why do criminals do bad things? There's many different reasons. And in cybersecurity, we always say think like an attacker, because the best defender is going to be someone who knows how to put good offense. You have to say, what are they after? Are they after money, right? Which, like you said, that's many times the motivation. Are they after anarchy and destruction and damage? Is it like politically motivated, right? There's different reasons, and then when you know the reason, or you try to understand, we have this concept called APTs. These are advanced persistent threats. These are groups that are super well funded. They have basically unlimited resources. They're closely affiliated with nation states, and there's so many of them that they give them numbers, and they're I think already up to 3 digits. These APTs, and some of them are very famous. And they got to the point where people have trouble. Us in the field, we have trouble like memorizing. Oh, APT 28. Is this group that's affiliated with Russia? So they start using animals, where an animal will be the country, and then there'll be an adjective before.
Wait. Attack. Hold on. And these APTs, they're attacking again 911 centers.
Well, they're attacking everything. Yeah, they're attacking governments, military. So Cozy Bear is probably arguably the most famous one, affiliated with Russia, right? Anything bear is Russia. So there'll be Sleepy Bear and Cozy Bear and Hungry Bear. You like different and U.S. is in there. Everyone's in there. Bottom line is that these APTs have unlimited time, unlimited resources, unlimited money. So it's not about whether they'll be successful. They have almost 100%. So there's a Gartner Magic Quadrant. So up in the upper right corner, there's a few countries that if you're targeted by those countries or by APTs affiliated the country, there's no way you're going to stop it. Right? So stop trying to figure out how to stop it and figure out what you're going to do when you get attacked. So in that quadrant, you have Israel, you have USA, you have Russia, China. These, if any of those APTs, advanced persistent threats that are very loosely or very closely, I should say, affiliated with these countries, you have no hope on stopping the attack. So you can take the limited money you have, because they have unlimited money, unlimited resources. I'm on the defense side. I have to figure out, well, what are they after? Because I can't protect everything. So I have to prioritize, take the limited money. If I'm a pharmaceutical company and I think they're trying to steal the secret to the next Ozempic or something, right? The next life-saving drug, let's say. I'm going to put my protections there, right? I'm going to target. I can't, protect everything.
Do you think we're doing that to other countries? Do you think there's APTs but we're attacking infrastructure? You think we're attacking hospitals somewhere else?
So there's this concept of hacking back, right? And it also gets into halakhic issues, right? Because, right, we know like the din of a rodef, right? You're allowed to preemptively attack, right? So by us, and especially if it's going to go from cyber to kinetic, when we see cyber attacks that turn into real world attacks, where we see like in Ukraine, right, where the power grid goes out, right, due to a cyber. So 100% we have the capability, and so does Israel, and so does Russia and China. They have 100%. They have the capability. Whether they choose to use it, they have to be very careful, because a lot of these attacks use once and that's it. You get one shot. With the famous Stuxnet attack, which was against Iran. So basically, Israel and the U.S. is never 100% confirmed, but basically that's what's the accepted truth. So they figured out a way to hack the nuclear plants to basically spin out of control, right? But more than hacking that, they also hacked the video systems that the people monitoring it, everything looked normal. So just like in the old movies when they hack the security camera and the guard's looking and everything looks good, right? And he's looking at a loop. It's a loop, right? It's not live. It's a loop. So they have the capability, but they have to be very careful, because if they don't use it in the most opportune time, look what happened with the pagers, right, in Lebanon, right? So at some point you have something in your arsenal. And I'm not on the military side. I don't have security clearance, but it's a very related topic, as was thought to happen with the pager and the radios, with Hezbollah. The idea is that if you think that you're waiting for that best time, but sometimes that best time will be no time if you don't use it now, right? If you think there aren't TCs, you have no choice. Many times, but most of these operations are planned out for years and years in advance. And they have so the governments, even our government here in the U.S., they know about. There was a famous shadow brokers attack. So the United States government knew about a very critical vulnerability in Windows. Right, Windows is the world's most popular operating system. They knew about this vulnerability that could take over your system completely. Did they tell us about it? 100% not. They wanted to use it to attack our enemies. Right. What happened, unfortunately, is the hackers stole the tools that the NSA had, and they used it against us. So here's an example. They sat on it, waiting for the best time to use it, and guess what happened? They never used it because the tools were stolen, and when the tools were stolen, we had no protection. They could have warned us. They could have told us. They could have said, "Hey, Microsoft." But it gets back to that thing about do you say something? You don't say something, right? When it comes to national security, it's a whole nother ballgame. Interesting topic, though.
Definitely. Why? Let me talk to a moment. Moshe Satt, who's 20 years old. Why cybersecurity? Why did you choose this avenue?
Cybersecurity is, like I said, it really ties into to saving and helping people.
So Altamod, you really felt that Altamod al Dariecha?
Yeah, it's what can I do sitting at a computer? How can I help somebody? It's more than the chesed. Many times it's helping, but many times it's saving someone, and especially now mobile defender, where we're literally saving people's lives with the anti-tracking technology that we have. That's what it was, and I always wanted I wanted to be in the IDF. I was in Mishmar Azrachi when I was in Eretz. I was very public service oriented. I wanted to be in Hatzalah and everything.
That's great.
But to be able to use, Hashem gives everyone individual talents, and the idea is one, understanding what you have. Everyone has their special tools that they can help to save the world, right? Like Rav Tarfon said. So basically, if you don't know what they are, then that's half the battle, figuring out. But everyone has those special gifts and special talents. But then, how do you use them? How do you put them into place? Yeah, as the internet again became the way we live, the way we learn, the way we study, the way we communicate, everything, right? It became even more serious. It's always been an idea of helping people. Now with smart devices, and everyone has a phone, and there's on your car and your home, and wherever you go, there's something tracking you, something watching you. The threats are just unimaginable, and it turns out that unfortunately bad actors are now using these devices to physically target people, track people, stalk people, and then, God forbid, attack people. So now it's just become super, super real. It was cool when it was like saving your data from being stolen, but it's even cooler now when it's like saving someone's life.
Sure.
There's no comparison. So, and that was my background, when I was at the police department. So I built systems for NYPD that were life-saving systems. We had in the beginning, we didn't have, when someone calls 911, and I'm sure it's the same when someone calls 100 in Israel, it actually sends your location. But the question is, can they do anything with that, right? Can they somehow? So I built a system that was able to send to the officers in the field the location of the person who was calling. Now, many times the person calling is not the person who needs help. Many times it's someone passing by. But in many cases, it's the person who needs help who's calling, right? So
we had a situation.
So yeah, I worked with the officers to get that in there. And then what happens is someone is on a boat. This is a true story. Someone was on a canoe in Jamaica Bay, and there's been many examples. This is just one story. The kayak flipped over in the Jamaica Bay in Queens. And they called 911 and said, the first thing they ask you, and you go, what's your location? It used to be, what's your emergency? But they say, no, what's your location? I want to get that out quick, right? Because even if I don't know what's going on, I need to know where you are. So at least I can send someone. They said, Jamaica Bay. That's the address. Like, it's a bit like that doesn't help much. So they send, helicopters. They send, a harbor. Where? Go to that system. Boom, boom, boom. Pings on Google Maps. Finds or saves a person's life. That was one example. Another example, someone climbs up a bridge. He had a little too much to drink, and he climbed up the bridge, and it was a jumper situation. So I worked closely with ESU, which is like the SWAT, the emergency service, And normally they would send the choppers, aviation. It was raining, so they couldn't send the helicopters. Aviation was down due to weather. They send the trucks from both Brooklyn, is a Williamsburg Bridge, send from Brooklyn side, Manhattan side. They can't find the guy. He calls 911 back. Again, he had a little too much drink. He says, ha, 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 you missed me. They said, we have this new system. Let's look. And they see, oh, he's on top of the Manhattan Tower of the Williamsburg. They climb up. There's a very specialized units, and they pull him down. They saved his life. So it's so many stories like this using technology to save lives. It's really it's what keeps me going.
Wow, I think that's very impressive. I didn't even know that technology was used in applications in my ignorance. But to lean into my ignorance, so I don't know much about Mobile Defender. I want you to tell me about it. I think we should switch over to that. But
yeah,
as you explain it, I want you to answer one thing again. My ignorance. Okay. If I'm not mistaken, I think, actually, I'll say the story here because I think it's amazing. But I had to transport once Ellie's guitar, your son, okay? It was a big guitar, so I was transporting it for him. And I'm in the car, and then all of a sudden, like, my phone, like, lights up. And I don't know what it's lighting up about. And it's like, oh, there's a tracker in your vehicle. You should just be like aware. And I'm like, what do you mean there's a tracker in my vehicle? So I'm like looking around, and the only thing that's changed is this really big guitar case. So so I understand that part of the application of Mobile Defender, and I want you to really flesh it out because I want to understand it more, is detecting when you're being tracked. But are there already things in place, and how are you different, and what's coming to the table?
Right. So basically, we fill a gap. So you mentioned the tracking. That's the AirTag, and we have solutions. Apple for AirTags, right? Those little round discs that Apple sells, and there's tile trackers. There's different trackers out there. Your phone can warn you about those, whether you have an iPhone, whether you have Android. But the trackers that abusers and stalkers actually use, yes, people do use AirTags, but they don't work as well. They use Bluetooth technology, but the ones that the professional abusers, and I'm being facetious when I say it, but the ones that work best for stalking people and for tracking people are the ones that use the cellular networks, right? So they actually have like a little SIM card in it, so you can think of it almost as like a miniature cell phone. They're very cheap. You could buy them on Amazon for $20. They come in a waterproof magnetic case. Many times what we call the attacker, the abuser, many times, usually it's a he, and unfortunately usually the victim is a she, not always, but 2-to-1 women are victims of domestic violence, 2-to-1 over men. So many times the abuser, the attacker, has access to the inside of the vehicle. It's a shared vehicle, etc. But they don't need that because they could just stick it underneath the bumper. And on the news and here in New York on TV did a special investigative report because they said when they heard about a Mobile Defender solution for this, they said we have to get the word out. Because there's never been a solution for this. So you mentioned you get the alert for the AirTag, but had there been the GPS cellular 4G tracker, which again is really, really inexpensive, $20 on Amazon, and it lets the attacker through an app monitor no matter where you go, as long as you have a cell signal, and where don't we have a cell signal today, right? The attacker can see where you are, and in 70, it's a crazy statistic. 79% of intimate partner homicides started with tracking. 79%.
That's crazy. That's wild.
So if 79%, so if those people would have known that they were being tracked, they could have saved themselves. And in CBS News, they interviewed the cousin of a murder victim. Who happened to be a male victim in this case. And the cousin says, had he had this Mobile Defender technology, he would still be alive today. So we know that if we save one life, just one life, this whole thing is worth it. This whole thing is worth it. Even if there's a possibility of saving one life, this whole thing is worth it. Mirz Hashem, we hope to save many lives. National Network to End Domestic Violence, NNEDV, so they are the organization in the United States for domestic violence survivors. So I was in Seattle. I was presenting my conference paper. I'm a PhD student at NYU. I teach at NYU. And in order to graduate, we have to publish. More importantly than graduating is again, helping people. So I was in Seattle, and I just presented at the conference, peer-reviewed research. And they contacted me, NNEDV, National Network to End Domestic Violence. They said, we need what you have yesterday. Our survivors need this yesterday. They represent the whole country. All the domestic violence organizations at the state level fall under this NNEDV, which is
For
they
sure,
sit.
it's past pikuach nefesh. I think this is peace of mind also. I mean, could you imagine, God forbid, for knowing someone that was a victim of such a thing or being tracked before? It gives you a lot of peace of mind to know that you have protection.
Yeah. 100%, 100%. And they said we said we never had a solution for this. We had a solution for AirTags. We didn't have a solution for the cellular, the 4G LTE GPS trackers. We sit on Apple and Google's board, so we have their ear. Let's make it happen. And by the way, a person shouldn't have to download an app to save their life. So AirTag, you get an alert. You don't have a special app. In the back of the day, only iPhone gave an alert. Now Android also. You don't have to download that. That's what I want for this too. I want we shouldn't have the victim, the survivor should not, or anyone, right? Like you said, even someone who's just concerned about their own. Right? It should be built in. It should be built into either the phone or the car.
There's no solution. There's no solution right now for people that are being.
And so there hasn't been any solution that works. There's been devices that claim that they can, and then the researchers tested them in my lab and in our lab under Professor Danny Huang. He's my advisor. NYU M Lab is what it's called. So they tested all these different spying devices. You go to an Airbnb. How do you know if it might be a hidden camera, right? Big problem. A hidden mic, right? So all types of spy devices. When it came to these GPS trackers, they didn't find anything that worked until now. And we tested this very, very scientifically in a lab within one statistical order of magnitude with an R squared of almost 1. So basically a linear relationship proving this out. And that's why this thing really went viral. So news stations around the whole country picked this up, and I'm so glad they did, because we have to get the word out. Right now we're building the app. So again, we really want this built into the phone itself through NNEDV. And we're going to talk to we're going to talk to Apple, we're going to talk to Google, and we're going to make it happen. They'll force them to have it. I mean, you want to believe the tech companies, with all the things people say about big tech, but you want to believe that they have not just a desire, but an achrayus to protect people, to save people's lives. So you want to believe that even if it costs them a couple dollars, I'm pretty sure they can afford it. How could you put a price on somebody's life? Anyway, so 79% of homicides from intimate partner homicides is started with tracking. And by the way, in the United States, every year, it's a global problem, by the way. 7.5 million people are stalked through technology every year in the United States. That's a federal government number. Of the 7.5 million, a good percentage of it, hundreds and hundreds of thousands, is through trackers. Okay, and like I said, the abusers, the attackers, are not just using the AirTags. And I said this on the TV interview when they interviewed me. I was driving my car and I was showing them the solution. It's on YouTube. I can share a link. I said, if I'm an attacker and I know your phone is going to tell you when you have an AirTag, am I going to use an AirTag? Obviously, I'm going to use the one thing that until Baruch Hashem Mobile Defender, there was no solution, right? I'm going to use that thing, and that's what they're doing. And there's so many sad cases, and it's around the world. So so this has been my new calling, and very passionate about it. We really need to move quickly. It's a l'isam l'adam merecha. It's a pikuach nefesh. It's an idea that as we speak, people are being stalked and tracked, and majority of those cases, it turns into physical attacks. In many cases, people lose their lives. We have a chiyuv to move very quickly on this, and to me, every day that we don't have, that this thing isn't out there, and again, we're working very, very with my limited, funds and team. Right, we're doing the best I can. I'm just one person. I'm a CEO, but I'm also the only employee. So I'm doing it all. But I could definitely use the help. I could use the funding. Right, we have, like I said, have interest from the advocacy groups, from the organizations that are there to help people, and then even the vehicle companies have reached out. One of the major vehicle companies reached out, and they were actually asking about a different problem that is related. I'll talk about it very quickly. Is the spoofing problem, where you're driving in Yerushalayim, right? But the attacker spoofs, and the car thinks you're in Tel Aviv. Right? What could go wrong there? It's a long list of things that can go wrong. So in a self-driving car, whether it's fully autonomous or semi-autonomous, Obviously, and by the way, these devices are very inexpensive, $50 on Amazon, to jam or spoof. Jamming is you can't see anything, but spoofing is to put to someone else. All of a sudden, the car thinks it's going to drive off a cliff. It makes a hard left, and guess what? It drives
that's
off a
crazy.
cliff.
Does that happen? Is that something?
So
Is that something that people are using?
that's the thing. Yeah, and they're shutting down.
Is this successful? Was it working?
Successful. Yeah. They have on again. Don't try this at home, but the certain websites you can go on for less than $50 and buy one of these devices.
Wow.
It's shutting down airports. It's shutting down airports. So planes, boats, vehicles. People are stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars of cargo from trucks, and then of course the trucks are tracked, right? But they spoof it. So they a big problem in Mexico. They take the truck, they take all the hundreds of thousands of goods on the truck, but the people watching the truck, just like the bank video that we spoke about earlier, still shows the truck is on its route, even though it's not. It's a spoof, right? And by the time they find out, it's too late. So that's a related problem. We have 2 patents, provisional patents. We have a patent for the tracker detection that we've been talking about, but also for the spoofing. By the way, in the EU and in Asia and many parts of the world, they're not allowed to sell cars without anti-GPS spoofing. It's called UN Regulation 155. It's a law in 42 countries. U.S. is not the law here.
It's not the U.S. Okay.
Just not the U.S. But the insurance companies here want it anyways. They'll either give you a discount if you have it, or they'll demand it because of how easy it is to spoof and how dangerous it is when your car or whatever vehicle.
Okay, but it sounds like at least for the spoofing there are other solutions. It sounds like for tracking.
So spoofing there are solutions. Spoofing there are solutions, but they're very expensive. So my solution is very inexpensive. So yeah, for tracking we're the only one. For the spoofing, there are military grade solutions that costs up to $100,000. And for car companies to embed that into every vehicle it's not cost effective. So they came to me, a big car company came to me in Seattle, and we met with them and said, "Hey, could we embed this into our cars?" And at the time, I didn't even have the patent for the spoofing, but Baruch Hashem, I was thinking about the problem after they came to me, and it came to me. So and it's a very inexpensive solution. In fact,
were you granted both patents?
So this provisional means you file with the patent office and it holds your place in line, and then you get fully granted once you can do this conversion. So the conversion has to happen within a year. So in Mirz Hashem, one was filed in August, the second for the anti-tracking was in August, the anti-spoofing was October. So by August, Mirz Hashem, of this new year.
Yeah, obviously you apply for international patents.
So, right? And then we also, yeah. So then we'll also do this PCT. There's this treaty. Every country in the world is part of this treaty, PCT, patent cooperation treaty, and yeah, we'll file for that too. And NYU, my university where I go to school and where I teach, it actually owns these patents because I invented both things, but they own the IP. That's the way it works in academia.
Why do they own the IP?
In academia, if you're a PhD student, and I'm actually an exception, or should be an exception because I'm a part-time PhD student. Most of the time, full-time PhD student. Most PhD students do it full-time. You can't really do research part-time. How I make it work. I do a lot of juggling. Full-time students, research is paid for by the university. So every university. But unfortunately, my research was not paid, but they still own it. It's okay. They license it to Mobile Defender, exclusive license. My company, NYU owns 4% of the company.
How much?
4%. So, and I'm the CEO with 96% today. Happy to get investors and dilute that, but that's fine. We are licensed. This is welcome to America, where you have to get your own invention licensed back to you. Right? It's an amazing thing.
Yeah, I hear. Okay, well, tell me a little bit how it actually works. How does Mobile Defender actually work?
Right. So the idea is that what I realized was that, and this was, again, the presentation in Seattle. There's a video that you can actually watch me giving the whole spiel. The idea is that we're looking at these cellular signals. They're using 4G to send, it's getting the GPS signal where you are, where the vehicle is, but then it has to send that phone home, right? It has to send that back to the app, to the cloud. It uses the cellular network. So what I realized was, these devices, it's all about battery life, right? You don't want to have to be changing the battery in your tracker every day or even every week. So they usually last around 30 days. And for an attacker, that's a great thing, right? Because he only has to sneak and get it in there, get it under the bumper, and replace, recharge it every month. And maybe he only needs to do it for a month or less. But in order to save battery life, they don't transmit continuously. They transmit on regular intervals, very specific intervals. So I was able to, first of all, realize that and say, well, if I could look for something that is, kind of, your phone is transmitting whatever it wants, and there's really no rhyme or reason. If you could look at the radio spectrum, you would just see these spikes. And the video on CBS, they show me driving. I show the spikes. These trackers are very, very careful to only transmit every minute on the minute, sometimes every 5 minutes. Depends on how paranoid they want to be about saving battery. But they're like clockwork, every minute on the minute, right? And we tested 5 different brands of trackers. So but the thing is, kind of the secret sauce. Well, okay, they're transmitting every minute, but how do I know where they're transmitting? The radio spectrum is massive, and there's hundreds of thousands of frequencies. If I have to scan and monitor everything, by the time I get to where it is, because it's a very short transmission, very brief, for like maybe 500 milliseconds, maybe less, 300 milliseconds, I'll miss it. So I came up with a way of figuring out, based on where you are. So it looks at the cell towers around you. It says, oh, I'm in Yerushalayim, and I have a database. There's a crowdsourced database of cell towers. Why do we have such a thing? Because people want to know. People, when they switch carriers, right? You want to know if you're going to get good, get 4 or 5 bars, right? So you go on like these websites like cellmapper.net, these different free, open, what we call crowdsourced. So people regularly contribute. So it's always up to the minute, because there's even apps that will auto-magically, as we say, update that. Bottom line is, you could say, I'm in the old city right now, Yerushalayim, and I want to know the towers. And not only do I want to know what towers, I want to know the frequencies. It's all there. If I know what's around me, I don't have to scan everything. I could just do a very targeted scan, and I could just scan the transmission from the device to the tower. It's called the uplink. I don't want to listen to the tower. The tower is talking to 100 phones, 1,000 phones at one time. That's like sitting in the base medrash, by the Mir in Lakewood, right, and trying to listen to one, to one.
It's sure.
So yeah, sure. But how about if I listen to the uplink? The uplink, which is, it's a two-way transition, so the tower to the device to the tower. Let me focus on the communication between the device and the tower. It's a very, very low power signal, but guess what? If it's with me, if it's in my car or under my car, even though it's so weak, it's going to be strong to me because I'm so close. The way radio signals work, obviously, the closer you are, the stronger it is. So I'm like, okay, let me figure out what is the uplink frequencies. How do I figure it out? Again, it's all based on where you are. So step 1, where are you? Oh, I'm in Yerushalayim, in the old city. Okay, here's the towers that are around me. Okay, what carriers are on those towers? Okay, it's whatever carriers. Okay, great. What frequencies? Okay, what are the uplink, right? All that is done behind the scenes. And then when it goes to actually scan for the device, it's a very, very targeted scan. It's only got to scan 1 or 2 small ranges, relatively small ranges, and maybe even if it missed it on the first minute, it'll get it on. It'll catch. Maybe it takes a minute just to get loaded up. For the app to initialize, but after about 1 minute, it's gonna catch it. And how does it know? It's the question I get asked all the time. How do you know it's the tracker? Maybe it's my phone. But your phone isn't transmitting.
That you said, yeah, exactly. It's the frequency.
Every minute.
Right, exactly.
And also the strength. If I'm driving, what happens if the guy next to me has a tracker? Right? How do I know it's not like a tracker on his car? Right? Well, guess what? As he drives away from me, or as I drive away from him, or as we drive away from each other, the signal is gonna get weaker. But if a strong signal, as I'm driving, the signal stays super strong and doesn't change in the strength, doesn't change in the time, what we call the amplitude and the interval, then it must be with me. The same way that you get the AirTag, right? AirTag, again, it's going to work. AirTag doesn't use like the cell towers. The AirTag, they're just looking for something with a signature of AirTag. You can't do that with the GPS trackers, right?
So
until my paper, you couldn't do it.
it'll take Mobile Defender then a few minutes to pick it up because it's going to have to make sure that it's at those different intervals. Is that
Yeah,
right?
it'll take like 1 minute because the trackers typically transmit every minute, right, or less. But typically, there was a corner case.
But maybe, how does Mobile Defender not know that someone just turned on a phone at that 1 minute mark?
Right. So they're going to see that it's a super strong signal. So it must be close. Now, yes, we could put our phones in airplane mode if we want to kind of rule out you don't need to. You don't need to because even if it was your phone at that 1 minute mark, your phone is not going to transmit exactly with that level of signal exactly 1 minute later. So let's say you turn it on and you detect a strong signal immediately. So already you're suspecting because of the strength of the signal and because of these specific frequency bands. By the way, I didn't mention that these what we call IoT, Internet of Things device, use special parts of the radio spectrum that are like a subset of the regular cell phone frequencies.
Interesting. So that also tips you off.
So that tips you off to your phone wouldn't be transmitting over there. So, but still, we have let's say a pretty high probability, but it gets better as we go, right? A minute later, right now the probability just jumped from 50% to 90%. And sure.
So if I was a bad guy, so what I would do, and I still wouldn't break through you, but what I would do is I would create a device that would operate in all frequencies, like the same one as a regular phone, so then you wouldn't catch it. But then my issue would be is that you still catch me at the 1 minute mark, because why am I only transmitting it every minute?
Yeah, and of course, the CIA, the NSA, the Mossad, they can customize and try to play the cat and mouse game, and it'll be a little bit harder, but we'll probably find it. It might take a couple more minutes, but the off the shelf, the one we're targeting is the off the shelf device, the one you buy from Amazon. That the attacker is not working for Shabak.
It won't matter. You'll catch him anyway. You can
and we'll catch him anyways. We'll catch him anyways. I had a meeting with CIA. Actually, they say they read the paper and they said, "Could we talk to you?" And they probably don't want me saying this, but
did you sign the NDA?
I didn't sign an NDA, nothing. And it was very interesting. They said, you know, in the streets of New York where you see car washes, they said many times that's not a car wash. It's a CIA facility. They said the car pulls in and it comes out clean, because if it didn't come out clean, people would wonder, like, it would look really suspicious, right? If a car came out of a car wash and it was, just as dirty. But inside, they're actually doing a full spectrum scan for like, let's say they think there's a bug, any kind of bug, tracker or listening device, camera, whatever. He said you would never know. It says car wash. It looks like a car wash. It feels like a car wash. It sounds like a car wash. It's not a car wash. It's one of their facilities.
It's a car wash plus.
Exactly. And it's a super high-tech anechoic chamber, as it's known, where they have a very sophisticated, millions of dollars, and they do those scans, and because they need to obviously make sure that they're and I'm sure it's not just the US. They have some, all over the place. He also said that, and he was like a cyber guy. So he said, if he just has a crazy idea that pops into his head, like he can call. He says there's two of them in the country. It's almost like Q from James Bond. He can call up and say, "Can you build me this thing?" And they're like, "Sure, yeah, we'll build it." And they just build it. So any crazy idea he has. It was an interesting conversation. But
that is interesting.
He said, yeah.
Moshe, listen, we're almost out of time. I got two questions I have to ask you though. Have you ever walked around using your technology and picked up signals?
Yeah. That was part of our testing. So we first tested in the lab, and just to baseline it. Then we tested out in the field. So we tested both driving and walking, because people sometimes get a tracker.
No, but did you get a ping? Did you get a ping and then you found a tracker in the real world? Have you done that yet? So
we haven't had a situation where like a hidden. These were trackers that we knew about, because we were testing it. We wanted to make sure that we first could find our own trackers. In terms of walking around, no, but driving around, yes. But like I said, maybe someone has a tracker on people buy trackers to track their own vehicles. They want to track their son and make sure they're not just where they're driving, but monitor speed. There's legitimate reasons.
You must be walking around New York and you just whip out your app every once in a while, don't you?
It's interesting. As we get this out there, sure, people. It's all about visibility and what we call situational awareness. So yeah, people don't know. Android today has the anti AirTag, the Bluetooth tracker built in. And I was just showing somebody last night. I said, you can go there and you can say scan and show me what's around me, and it goes and it checks. That's for Bluetooth. It doesn't do anything for these cellular trackers, right? Hopefully, Google and Apple will build this in, and when they build it in, it shouldn't just be me. It shouldn't just be a professor at NYU. It should be anyone, whether it's a woman or anyone who's concerned about their privacy. They should be able to scan for these things, and it should be operating constantly in real time, right? They shouldn't have to download an app. They shouldn't even have to trigger a scan. It should just be, and yeah, people can have fun. You can make it like a treasure hunt, just like a Pokemon Go. We can do tracker Go, and you get points for finding them, and we can turn it into a fun thing. But
so the main reason I had you on is because is I really think this is I think it's a wild idea. I think it's a really important idea. I think it's not an exaggeration to say that there's aspects of pikuach nefesh absolutely built into it. So it's chashuv on a halachic level as well. And I'm happy that you're having time on the air. What are you looking for business wise? I mean, you love to spread open those shares. What are you looking for? If people are interested, what can they think about?
Yeah, I mean, we want to get this thing out there, and we want to get this out onto, like you said, the street. Right? We want this has to be out on the street. We need people to get this technology. Whatever is going to help, expedite that. Obviously, funding is very helpful because we can accelerate our development, our deployment, and we can have the ability. We want to catch the attention of big tech, and we want we have a way of going through, like I said, NNEDV, National Network to End Response. We still need to show, not just in like the TV special was with this like $150 device you could buy on Amazon. People shouldn't have to even purchase that. People should be able. It should just be something that is
standard.
All in one, a standard, right? So it takes some development. There's some hardware, there's some software to get that all, not just to build the first one, but to now start building it out and getting it out there, right? So whether we build it or a company helps us build it, whether we license it to a company, there's different ways of going about. At the end of the day, right? We need. I'm like I said, a one-man team, and we need to accelerate. We need to accelerate the development and the deployment. Like I said, the app is almost ready. But we still need. There's a hardware piece to it. That there's a cost. It's a low cost, but there's a cost to it, and multiplied by how many people in the world need this. So investors, of course, are going to be helpful, because investors are going to help us be successful. We hope to be back on we may be back on another TV program next week, another national. I don't want to say it before it's official, but we may be back on TV next week on a major national network.
Why don't you jump on Shark Tank? This sounds like a great Shark Tank.
So yeah, sure. I mean, anything at the end of the day, just because people don't even know that this thing is out there. So just getting the word out, getting the message out, right? Getting licensing deals with big tech, getting licensing with maybe the vehicle companies. Why not embed this into a vehicle, right? There's R&D that has to be done where where my company has to prove out, because Honda, Toyota, Ford, etc. They're not going to. They want to see this thing working, right? And it's more than an algorithm is arguably the most important part, right? Like figuring out how to do it. Thank God that we did that. But now showing that it works, and getting a car, doing a prototype, and imagine and especially with the spoofing. The spoofing, like I said, it's a law, and it's a law. So they want to see it built in. So there's a lot of R&D costs to getting everything spun up. But things are going to happen, very fast once the prototypes are built out, and we get more media coverage, and again, once the manufacturers, the OEMs is really what we're targeting. And there's also the telematics companies, the companies that sell software that manage these fleets of vehicles. We actually just spoke to one of the leaders, a $1 billion company, a leader in the telematics, and they said we have a big problem in Mexico with cargo theft, and they actually have anti-jamming, So if they just lose eyes on their, again, big trucking companies use their software. So yeah, they go dark, right? They say, oh, I can't see my truck. They have an alert for that, but they don't have a solution for the spoofing. Because again, those solutions that are out there are military grade solutions. They cost like $100,000 a pop, right? They need something very, very effective and very inexpensive. So they said, we're interested. We're going to hopefully be talking to them again, because the spoofing thing is, the truck goes off course, someone steals the truck, but they spoof it, and your map still shows the truck on course when it's really not. So that's a big problem in their Mexico market. So yeah, it's it's exciting. It's a lot of work that has to be done in terms of getting these prototypes and getting in front of these companies and demoing. But in Mitzvah, we'll get there. But we could use the support from anyone who wants to get involved. It's clearly, like I said, even if we end up just saving one life, this whole thing is worth it.
Right.
Multiply by how many we could. It's something that I can't even believe that, like, as we speak, this thing is happening when I have a solution. Like, to me, like, I that keeps me up at night. Like, I don't know, like I can't figure out how to save people's lives with this. That's great. But now, like, Hashem, please help me to get this out there. Help me to get the support from whether it's investors or
so Moshe,
partners.
The Gemara tells us that we are not prophets, but we are the children of prophets. Well, I'm not a prophet, but I'm the son of a prophet. And I think that you're going to be very successful and help a lot of people. So then I'm going to ask you as my final question this. What's it like being on the precipice of success?
It's exciting, but it's also it's a responsibility. You feel like like I just said, you feel like you have something. You have something. It's been scientifically validated. That's great. So Baruch Hashem. But now getting it out there
And validated.
And halachically, so it's the success is again when we say that the first life, when the first person, when the news Mitzvah Hashem does a story, right? They did the story about how this could save lives because there's this new technology. The next story they're going to do, and unfortunately they interviewed a cousin of someone who didn't have the technology and lost life. The next story is when they interview the person who says, you know what, I found the tracker that my abuser, my stalker was tracking me, was gonna do this horrible thing to me. So that's the precipice of success. So feel to me that I can't wait. It's about this. Success is going to be defined by the lives we save. So it feels very exciting, but also, like I said, almost like a stress that we have it, but we need to get it out there. And why is it not out there?
Right.
So it's exciting times, but it's also the challenging time because we need to really just deliver. We need to deliver. If I was a big company, if I was Apple, I was Google, that would be done. It would be a done deal, right? I'm not Apple and Google. We need to get their attention. We need to get it embedded, right? It should be something that is just automatic. The same way you got the alert from my son's guitar case, right? The survivor should also get the alert from their phone or their vehicle or whatever. So it feels like we're close, but we need to get over that last hill, because the last hill is when we actually start saving the lives.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, Moshe Satt, Mobile Defender.
Thank you so much, Rabbi.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
See you, everybody.
All the best. Thank you. Bye-bye.